Banks in Iceland need a bailout, but citizens of that country say no way. The people of Iceland voted against a deal that would have helped fix their economic problems, refusing to pay off bank debts. So why didn't the United States do the same? Joining me now from Vancouver, Canada, is research associate at the Center for Research on Globalization, Andrew Gavin Marshall. Mr. Marshall, let's talk about this concept. From what I understand, it was determined that bailing out Iceland's banks would have set each citizen back more than $16,000. So they voted no. Talk to me about this.
Yeah, and it would have been about $65,000 per household. Now, the reality is that the Icelandic people didn't really vote no against the actual negotiations. The vote was on negotiations that have already died. When the negotiations were being finalized, the Icelandic people signed a petition to the government asking that it veto the negotiations, that it veto the settlement, which the government then did, and then the government had to take that negotiation to referendum, according to Icelandic law. At the same time, the government began new negotiations with both the Dutch and the British. So the vote was basically akin to Marie Antoinette saying of the French people, let them eat cake. They were actually voting on something that was already dead. And the negotiations are going forward, and according to Iceland's central banker, they may be even finalized within the next few weeks.
So basically the vote was sort of a statement to let people know what they wanted. But talk to me about this. What happens to the banks?
Well, the banks have basically gone under. They've been nationalized. And the bailout would be for roughly $5.4 billion, which would go to the Dutch and the British depositors in Iceland, which was the major online bank that went under. And this is basically asking the Icelandic people to pay for the bad debts of their bankers and the bad regulations of their government. And it's sort of endemic of this corporatist economic undertaking that's going on around the world, where the private debt has become public obligation. So you privatize profit and you socialize the risk. And the Icelandic people are angry because they're being asked to pay for these bad debts that they really took no part in. And in 2007, Iceland was said to be the best country to live in by the UN, and a year later their country collapsed.
And from what I understand, these countries that want the people of Iceland to basically carry this weight, I mean, they're working with the International Monetary Fund, is that right?
That's absolutely correct, and they're basically being exposed to financial extortion. And what I mean by that is that the loan from the IMF, which is roughly $4.3 billion, I believe, is being held off on given to Iceland until this negotiation regarding Iceland is resolved. Now, the IMF kind of uses doublespeak, Orwellian doublespeak, in explaining this. They state that the loan isn't conditional upon paying the bailout, but they state that they won't give the loan until the issue is resolved. And the EU is also applying pressure. They're also trying to fast-track Icelandic membership in the European Union, which less than a third of Icelandic people are in favor of because they see what's going on with Greece, and they don't think that it will help them out very much. And the Icelandic people have been fierce guarders of their sovereignty for quite a long time, and they fear what the entry into the EU might mean for them.
I guess I'm just a little confused then. As far as the people saying no, does that do anything to prevent them from having to bail out their banks?
It doesn't. That's why it's sort of a let them eat cake situation. It's more of a political valve for anger of the Icelandic people to express it in some way. The vote was essentially between no and no. Even if they all voted yes, they're voting for something that has already been canned. And really the only repercussions this has is that it expresses that there's so much angst and anger against this negotiation and against bailing out these foreign entities that the British and Dutch have, in theory, conceded to some facets in negotiations, such as possibly lower interest rate payments on the debt, possibly extending the time period for which the repayments have to be made. But they still said that without a doubt, that full debt will be repaid.
All right, and still interesting that they protested before the bailout happened rather than after. Thanks so much for that analysis. Yeah.